All right, decided to film another one of these, and as evident from last time, I have no idea how to start these. Um, so I decided I'm gonna start with a couple of shout outs to just some friends that I see doing big things and just want to give them their flowers. First is my buddy Sean Kreider. I say buddy, my brother Sean Kreider. Grew up together, and Sean is head varsity boys basketball coach at Homestead High School in Wisconsin. I get him and the next person mixed up, the states they coach in. But Sean this season got his 100th win, and I thought that was just cool as shit, man. Like somebody I grew up with has 100 coaching wins. That's insane. And honestly, I knew, and this is not like a LeBron James, like, yeah, oh, I knew I saw this. Um, but no, I knew he was going to be a good coach once he told me he's going to get into coaching. And the reason why I knew is because we learned the game together. We grew up same street, and we played Y ball together for I think maybe 3 or 4 years, same team. And in 3 or 4 years, I think I may have passed him the ball maybe twice. Um, I was a terrible teammate, terrible. Passing felt like quitting to me at that age. Like I'm giving up on scoring, so I got to pass the ball. So yeah, I never passed, and it wasn't just him, Stevie, him, all of them. Like I don't even know why they're still friends with me because like I never shared the ball with him. But Sean, he still found a way to bring value to the game. Like he didn't complain. I'm sure he secretly hated me. Maybe still does. But even without getting the ball, he was always positive. Found ways to add value to the game. So I knew then once he told me later in life that he's gonna get into coaching, I'm like, this dude's gonna do some big things. So super proud of my brother Sean. Second is my brother Red Allen. Uh, Red last night went into his former school where he used to coach, Apollo, and now he coaches I think it's Sioux Rapid Rice Storm, and went to his former school. And we had a chat before the game about humility and what the expectations of the moment and going in handling business. I know he wanted to win that one. We talked about that. And he went in and won decisively. I mean, huge win. I joke with him privately that I'm like, man, I hadn't seen Apollo get beat like that since Rocky Four. You Ivan Drago them. So salute to Red on that. I know you're being humble, but I don't have to be. Like, yeah, way to kick their ass, bro. Third is my little brother Brock. Um, you guys see me and Brock. We go back and forth on this here app a lot, just joking, cracking jokes on one another. That's what we do. And I want to salute him because he kind of led me to the topic I want to talk about today. And Brock is unapologetically honest. Probably my most honest friend. And sometimes his honesty, borderlines on disrespect. People get upset with him, but I know where he's coming from. It's always in a loving place. But after the last video, take a hit of my wine real quick. Excuse me. After my last video, he talked about how I seem nervous. And I'm like, yeah, I did. And he's like, man, you can tell better stories than that. Like, I see you tell stories. And I'm like, yeah, I know I can, but I struggle in this forum. And, but no, I appreciate it because it led me to the topic I want to talk about today. And it's a taboo topic, especially amongst men and really, really amongst minority black men. And that is mental health. And that's kind of where my struggles stem from. I've been open about it in my writing. I have people that reach out to me about it because they've seen me talk about it, discuss it, and later in life, I've just learned to own it. And that was, at the age of 37, 2017, I was diagnosed with anxiety and panic attacks. That you know, I when I first was diagnosed with it, your initial reaction, and I don't want to compare it to like a life or death thing, but to me it was like hearing like I had cancer, like I wanted to reject it, no, like no, I don't, and because I thought it meant that I was weak, like that I couldn't quote unquote man up, and it was once the doctor started talking me through what anxiety and what a panic attack is, it then it started feeling kind of like the end of the movie Sixth Sense, where like all the signs come together and you're like, holy shit, I've been dealing with this the whole time. Like I've he's right. Like I have anxiety. I suffer panic attacks. And looking back on life, like when they were telling me, like, these are when this is happening, this is a panic attack. And for me, everyone's symptoms are different. For my symptoms, my throat starts to feel like it's closing. My hands get shaky, kind of like they are already. Another thing, I suffer from tremors, so my hands are always shaking. And I own that. Like, I know sometimes people are like, "Are you nervous?" Like, no, my hands, I have tremors, so I can barely write legibly. So it is what it is. But my throat closes. I feel like I can't breathe, and instinctively, to open up my airways, I start dry heaving. I don't. I don't throw up. I've only thrown up one time, and that was in the middle of a college basketball game, which was super embarrassing. Didn't turn the ball over though. Had the ball in my hands and threw up via press, and still didn't turn it over. Was able to get a timeout and get off the court. But that's my diagnosis. Like I my vision kind of gets blurred. I get very shaky and feel like I can't breathe, and then I start dry heaving, open up my airway, and it subsides. But when you're going through it, you truly, anybody that experiences them, you feel like you're dying. And looking back when they were telling me that this is what a panic attack is for you, I started seeing that, like, man, I have been dealing with this my entire life. Like, I was diagnosed at 37, and I think the average life expectancy of a black man is 69. So you do the math. Over half my life, I fought this battle and didn't even know it. And I remember as a kid, because they early on they just showed up in certain situations, a big game, test, excuse me, situations like that. And as a kid, I remember my mom taking me to the doctor because I'd have these games and I'd be out there and she would look and I'd be dry heaving in the game, and the doctor, and in the late 80s, early 90s, mental health studies weren't what they are today. The doctor was like, he needs to have him chew some gum. And hindsight 2020, like, thanks a lot, Bubblicious MD, like that was your prescription. But yeah, that's when it would rear its head. And I remember I think in the fourth grade, like in the spelling bee, like I made it further than I expected to make it, and then I like bombed on the word turtle, like because I got so nervous and so panicked that spelled it, I think, Turttle, and just bombed out. But that's kind of where mine stemmed from. And like looking in the past and like how much I dealt with it and how much I had gone through with it. And I've learned that with time and maturity, it doesn't make me weak. Talking about it honestly gives me strength. I equate it to like kind of like Eminem at the end of 8 Mile, when he takes away the ammunition. He just owns it. And it's like, what? When I go in a social setting or if I am speaking, I'm okay with saying I'm nervous. I suffer from this. So I own it, and invariably, usually it goes well. Sometimes I bomb, and sometimes it's like, my anxiety, my panic attack got the best of me that day. And it doesn't make me weak. I own it. I learn from it. I try to do better going forward. Um, Also, and this is kind of taboo as well, I take medication as needed. Um, I it helps me because there are some days where I run a conference call every Thursday at work for all the retail leaders across our footprint, and routinely, excuse me, between 40 and sometimes up to 70 people on there. And I know every Thursday morning I'm going to have to take my medication. I'm going to be nervous. If I don't, I run the risk of having a panic attack at the wrong moment. And, when it has, and it has happened before on these calls, thankfully before we started recording them. But when it does, I just, I've got to excuse myself. I'll talk a little bit about coping things that I do at the end of this, but, I take my medication. And there's nothing wrong with taking meds. Doesn't make you weak. I go to a lot of, I've gone to a lot of therapy. I'm not currently in therapy now. Funny story about it. My last therapist, the dude literally quit the industry like a day after a session I had with him. I'm like, damn, bro, like, how fucked up am I that, like, you decided, like, man, I can't do this at all. This dude's got too many issues. But therapy is great. I equate it, it's just talking about your shit with an unbiased third party. You talk through things. You get different perspectives. Sometimes it's easier to be open with a stranger than someone who knows you. So therapy, beautiful thing. A couple things you can't do, though. You can't avoid it away. I spent 30 plus years avoiding it, not knowing what it was, going into situations that I knew were triggers for me and just hoping for the best. Like, please, please don't let it happen, which I'm putting more stress on myself. And invariably, it would show its head. This is another one that, I hope no one takes this the wrong way at this point, but you can't pray it away. You cannot pray it away. Mental health issues are real. Many of society experience them, but prayer is a great thing. Don't get me wrong. For those that pray, beautiful thing to communicate with who you believe your creator is. And that's great. But, I don't know what everyone's spiritual beliefs is, but, sometimes I say your creator sometimes shows up in the form of a licensed therapist or a primary care provider. Your creator created them to help you. And you can pray. There's nothing wrong with it. But prayer alone is not going to solve your problems. Eventually, you got to say amen, and you got to get up and you got to do something to get what you seek, to get what you desire. And your creator places people there in your life that can help you. Created people that created medicines that can help you. So never let anybody, pigeonhole you into this is the only cure for you. There are other avenues. I was typing my notes on what I wanted to talk about, and one of the things that we've got to get beyond the stigma of being afraid to talk about it. And it reminded me of my daughter when she was very young. When she would get in trouble, we would tell her, like, all right, we need to talk about it. And she would preemptively, she would know she's in trouble, and she would talk about it. And that's something that we have to learn to do as a society when it comes to mental health, especially us men. Like, we think that we've got to harbor it in and no, not me. No, bro, you do the same shit everybody else does. None of us are strong enough to tackle it alone. We have to be able to be open and honest. And I hope that somebody hears this and it spurs them to change directions or to look at things through a new light and to have the conversations that me and my friends have with each other. I jokingly say, I have so many best friends. I don't have a single one that's my best friend. I have so many best friends and brothers. and we have these conversations. We check in on one another, like, yo, my man, you good? Like, I'm seeing things, I'm feeling things, I haven't heard from you. And we can confide in one another without feeling weak, without the stigma or the feeling that they're going to share it with somebody else, or later down the road we're going to make fun of each other for it. Like, no. If somebody's truly there for you, let them be there for you. Trust them to be there. Trust them to be there for you. But yeah, we have to get beyond that. We have to talk about these things, be open about these things, because you're not alone. Once you start talking about it, you'll realize there's a lot of people in your circle that deal with the same thing. Another thing I said earlier, you got to know what your triggers are. For me, public speaking is a main trigger. Certain social scenes are a trigger for me. If I go into something and I don't really know the environment. And one of the things I do in that is I always try to make sure that I show up early. I want to be the first to arrive, because then I can meet everyone, scope it out, and I feel a little bit more at ease, because now I feel like I've talked with everyone, and now it kind of helps me. Another thing that I do is, I focus on my 5 senses when I'm having a panic attack, when I'm in the middle of one. Sorry. And I don't want to turn this thing into like a drink champs, but drinking wine after a work day, whatever, you get it. But yeah, I focus on my 5 senses. When I'm in the midst of a panic attack, I focus on something that I can see. That lets me know my vision. I'm still in control. Still in control of my vision. I focus on something I can hear. It could be music, could be a sound, but I try to hone in on that. Something that I can smell, something that I can taste. So I always have mints on me. If you see me popping mints, either, man, his breath stank, or I might be in the midst of, I'm feeling anxious. So I put a mint in, and it helps me know, all right, I'm in control of my 5 senses. I can taste something. And then I focus on something that I can feel. I have a scar on this pinky right here that when I'm anxious, I'll rub it. For some reason, I got this scar, I think, when I was 15, 16 years old. So I've had it longer than I didn't have it. But it helps me just to rub at it, and it lets me know that I can still feel. I'm in control of my 5 senses, which means I'm in control of my body. This panic attack has not taken over me. It will subside, and it sucks to go through it, because anyone who experiences them, you feel like this is the end. You're dying, and it's crazy. You almost never get used to it. Everyone feels fresh and new when you have one. But those 5 things, they help me tremendously. One of the best pieces of advice that I ever got, read, studied up on, was focusing on that. And the last one I'll leave you with is seek help. If you're going through some things, you're feeling something, your mind is not in a state that you think it should be in, treat it just like any other muscle. If you fell and you broke your arm, you're going to go to get help with your arm. There's so many other examples of things that go wrong with the body. Like men, we'll go get a prescription for erectile dysfunction before we'll go talk to somebody about what's going on in our head. That's insane. We have to get beyond that. But don't be afraid to seek help. That's it. I think that's all I've got. Went for damn near 20 minutes, which is insane. But I'm going to try to keep coming back. Once again, shout out Sean, shout out Red, and Brock. Thank you for the honesty. I'm going to try to continue to do this. Hopefully it lessens my anxiety, and I can get back to telling the stories that when I'm around people that I know, and I can be, I'm being authentic, my true authentic self, but just be a little bit more relaxed in my storytelling. Love you all. Peace, wine. Have a good night.